Hey guys, Lex here, back for more of the Greatest Journey. Last time we finished the summation examination, and now we'll meet the witness. What? Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court.
Constable Royal Beate, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir. I'm Mrs Beate. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
Nora is your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from the bare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check the meters are reading true. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items in the list that don't sound much like policing duties at all.
I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beate?
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly?
Constable Royal Beate, sir. Nothing to report in the street, sir. What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimony now, please. We'll tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. What the witnesses saw.
It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at the nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Huh?
Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events you have established in the summation examination will be quashed.
It's a death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate big chancing, and on your wedding anniversary too.
Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. Thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of London Bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed, however. This cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have the time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that without a doubt the accused Mr. Sasaki Natsume. And one of those witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that man's so tired, his wife had to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. What the witnesses saw. No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Miss Beate?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and elderly can't even apply.
Well, I think you could probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in this uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
Just finished my beat.
Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer your uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you finished the beat for the day, correct?
That's right, sir, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve the city and my queen to the end.
What's that now?
My word card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and if for such a noble cause, I'd cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without grumble. Because I know that plodding off my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure.
So fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then?
But sir, just one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs Beate puts up with long married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps. And then, can't I describe what happened next?
Hold it!
Two silhouettes?
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in the print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain at that time there was nobody else nearby.
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There's nobody else around at all, isn't it right, my darling?
What? Oh, yes, that's right. Of course. There was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beate. Are you quite sure of what you just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day keeping watch on the streets, I swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
Hold it!
Scattered something. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then we got closer. We realized what it was. Didn't we, darling?
What? Oh, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I say, old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped the number of the old mall around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Hold it!
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose, everything. Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right. He looked down at the poor defenseless woman with those terrifying intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. It's tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this ambiguous testimony comes from the policeman and his wife. Now please, continue.
Yes, sir.
Hold it!
Police box. Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I'm a proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Oh yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beate to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beate. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I said Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't exactly on my beat. So I told Patricia to go to the police box for the beat the incident fell under, so she could go and report it.
I ran as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh, please. You're making me splash, isn't it, darling?
Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we? Thought that would go into the court record, or update their testimony. But surely we wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
What? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light of the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yeah. And what of the fog? We're famous for it up across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand and head of your arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now could you stop shaking your husband around? Well,
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Oh yeah. It was it was the accused, no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was the Seki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's her entire testimony?
What do you think, Mr. Narado?
Well, I had to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beate saw what days they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene of the prior road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
If that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call a guilty verdict after this testimony.
No, what do we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here,
Huh? What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Their statement about saying Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling it that into question won't help. But if you can identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in their statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Why do I always seem to be so up against it?
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... Seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. Oh no, it's really not that at all.
As a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books that the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare question how reliable my testimony is?
Oh. That will do, Miss Beate.
Oh, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. And if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense, but please put your husband's fist down. Or perhaps we just simply lack the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Miss Beate. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That will settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling?
Oh, cool. Cool, that's exactly what I needed. Yes, we know that there were books dropped on the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused of the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question.
After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over at the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard, don't you, my darling?
An interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beate, seeing as you've relegated the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur something or another, and what's it, yearnings? Then there was a meal for someone. And the last one was definitely the thingamummy something. See?
Yes. I see there are one or two holes in your testimony.
Well, they were along those lines, I'm sure.
There were indeed books found at the scene, with titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Anyone who accepts by Patricia will have me to answer to. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. That's it. That's their entire testimony.
What do you think, Mr. Naruto?
Well, I had to admit it, but here in really this officers saw everything they saw. I just read this. Four books. Did it say 4 before? Oops.
Objection!
So you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Earnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Hemingway Something.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Beate. But there's a fundamental flaw in this statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4.
What?
This is the receipt of the bookshop where the defendant bought his books.
Your books?
Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
Only 3? But no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There are 4 books, 4 dirty old books.
Oh really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the crime scene. As you clearly see from the evidence as well, there are only 3 books.
But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it. I saw them.
No, madam. I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no!
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife, and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh.
You see, this matter is not up for debate. At the scene of Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? Only shows 3 books. Quite right, only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say? Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. I don't believe it. Lion's Pride. That was in their house. It's the 4th book, and it was burnt. It's Garadeb's burnt book, his favorite book, as you will observe. The fourth book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order, order.
There, you see, look at that, look.
Yes.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling?
Yes, sir. Pictures is always right, sir. Just study the receipt of the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs Beate, the titles once again, if you please.
Ah, yes, of course. A picture of Monsieur something or another.
A picture of Monsieur Lecoq.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gabrielle, in fact. As the court just heard, the witnesses remembers the book's titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs Beate's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Do you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment.
Yes, sir, flawless, sir. Picture's always flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs Beate mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which was shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book.
I wonder, what became of that 4th book?
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. We will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. Second crime scene photograph. 4th book. The prosecution rests. Let's take a look. Yep, that's Garadeb's book, alright.
Let me see, it's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
Afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute, The Lion's Pride. That's strange. I think I've heard of the book by that name before, and very recently too.
The title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yeah. And it was burnt.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right, you'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the later pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Good. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your submission examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Futile?
I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions, should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty. Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruto, I'm afraid you're in a terribly precarious situation.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think. Yonosuke, think. What do I do now? Objection.
Objection!
I'm not done yet. No, my little friend. It's over. The last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but I can't think of what to say.
If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
You insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this.
Oh.
I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable.
Mr. Naruto.
One of these land's greatest guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam. Go ahead, Mrs. Sato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presenting with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Huh?
Huh?
Well, Mr. Naruto, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Yes, I understand, and thank you, Mrs. Sato. I already did. This is it. Mrs. Sato has managed to give us one last chance here. Can't let it go to waste. Defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case, and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we could see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book, found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist you elaborate, counsel. You identify the clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Yes, my lord. Sir.
Mr. Naruto, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track.
Yes, I think you might be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case which the fourth book conceals? Come on, there you go.
Got it!
Hold it.
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious! It's been burnt to a crisp. So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh. Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? Charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered? My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth. But the book's owner... I beg your pardon.
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how could you possibly? Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court who you claim the owner's burnt book.
Take that!
The answer is that book belongs to a couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb, the landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for the jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
Oh, I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not a mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed in the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor at Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. Good Lord! What sort of incident, Counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove! The very same title that's the subject of this debate.
Oh, dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you told the court is that the book by the same name was involved in the fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of a crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of fire was marital discord. Without going into the details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful. I can't imagine being so horrid to the one you love, can you, Rolly?
Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. I had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh up in the smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back against the window under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. Ah. The man had his back against the window and had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted at the very evening of the incident. There is no report of the Garadep's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadep household. But it is not conceivable the window was open at the time, and not even remotely. Let us not forget the season, the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, Consul? Do you earnestly claim the book was found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garadep's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord.
That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward, a mean coward.
Really?
Claim that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake, how could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it, and all you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears. That's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now, listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the moustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me.
Oh, sorry, what's that?
Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Six? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... If the books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. Huh? What? No, forgive the discourtesy this time. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of Troy, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Again. Hold it.
Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over.
Mr. Naruto, don't give up.
Huh?
Mrs. Ado. Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet.
You're not suggesting...
Of course, the defense has a right to another summation examination at this point. I'd still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. I believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Okay. Ooh. Alright guys, good thing we could stop here. I was about to save right there. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and we'll continue the trial next time. Thanks for watching. See ya.